I feel that this world is like a university. And you come to a university to get educated. To me, this world seems to be like a university. It's all about learning. Imagine a life where everything was fair. Imagine a life where everything goes exactly the way you want it. What the bloody hell am I learning? Imagine a life where I get what I want, when I want, how I want. Do I even have an opportunity to work on myself and everything goes my way? When you go to the gym, you lift weights. You're lifting weights against gravity. Because you lift weights against gravity is when your muscles grow. Growth is a consequence of going against gravity. And going against gravity means suffering. But if I have to pick up a dumbbell which is 25 kilos up like this, it's going anti-gravity. And anti-gravity means pain, but pain means growth.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I watch these videos every day because I need them for motivation. Being around successful entrepreneurs every morning helps me believe that I can do great things too. It's like your morning coffee, but for your goals, kickstarting your day with a blast of positivity. So here is a challenge for you. Try watching one video every morning for the next 30 days. And let's find out together if they help you do great things too. If you're in, leave a hashtag BELIEVE in the comments below so I can celebrate with you. So today, let's get some incredible motivation from the one and only Gaur Gopal Das.
You go to university. It's a hell of a lot of pain. To go through thick, fat books, to write the assignments, to go through the vivas, to write your exams. You have to slog it out like hell if you want a degree from Ivy League university. Go to IIM Ahmedabad and ask any of the students. They're slogging it out. Right? It's painful. But that's the purpose. How do you grow? How do you evolve? How do you learn? How do you progress without having gone through that pain? So to me, you could just call it, this is a world of suffering, suffering, suffering. It's such a negative way of looking at it. And I'm not one of those. I hate looking at the world in a very pessimistic, negative way that, oh, there's so much pain, there's so much. There is pain, undoubtedly. Like you rightly said at the beginning of this question, nobody's life is perfect. And it can't be, right? We're not looking for perfection in our life. We're looking for genuineness and sincerity of commitment to our lives, right? Perfection nobody can have. But can we be sincere in our life? Yes. Perfect moments nobody can have. Happy moments can we have? Yes. A perfect relationship nobody can have. Happy relationship we can try to have. A perfect home nobody can have. A happy home we can try to have. You know? So I really don't think that, like I said, I don't look at this world just constantly saying it's pain, 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 pain. Oh God, sometimes spirituality and spiritual leaders just bombard people with this. Man, people are going through enough of that stuff. You don't need to tell them that. You need to direct that energy rightly to say, how do you utilize that pain to grow? We all have had our own failures. We all have had our own disappointments. And as you embark on this new journey, you will have yours. Life is what it is. With all our dreams, with all our aspirations, with all our ambitions, life does what it does to us. And when failures do come, disappointments do come, we need something very incredible. I remember when I was graduating and I was finishing my diploma in engineering, I stood second in the state of Maharashtra and I missed my first rank by 4 marks. I was very, very disappointed. I came back home with tears in my eyes. And it is at that time, I remember my father coming and patting on my back and said, look, dear son, people will forget the grades and people will forget the marks. At the end of it all, what matters is to keep that spark alive. How many of you have got hurt on your knees? Thank you. How many of you have gotten scab on your knees as it heals? How many of you thoroughly enjoyed pulling it off? How many of you still enjoy pulling it off? But you know what? The more you touch a wound, it doesn't heal. It's not just about physical wounds, it's about emotional wounds too. The more you touch it constantly, you're going to not heal out of it. If you want to heal, stop touching these wounds. You know, somehow there'll always be things on the bucket list to take off. There'll always be deadlines to catch up with and pressures to handle. There'll always be targets to meet. There'll always be taxes, bills, mortgages to pay. There'll always be problems and issues to handle. But in doing all of that, we cannot forget to live life. We have to keep up with our deadlines. We have to match up with our pressures. We have to deal with all of that. But in doing all of that, sadly, people are forgetting to live life. To live life with that bubbliness, with that joy, with that exuberance. You know what I mean? Because a life that's lived well is a life where you share this joy in the simple things with the people whom you love.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight our favorite lessons from the video that will inspire you to remember what you learned today and actually apply them. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
One of my friends used to say, life is unfair. Get used to it. How many of you heard that one? Yeah. And there's another friend of mine who's a big businessman. He said, life is unfair. Learn to negotiate. तो मैं बोले, दो लोग ऐसा कैसे बोलते हैं यार? Two contrary statements. One is saying life is unfair, get used to it. Like giving in. And the other is saying life is unfair, negotiate. Work on something. Which one's right, which one's wrong? Both are right. Life is unfair. Learn to live with it. When things come and you can't change it, acceptance is the only way. And life is unfair. Learn to negotiate, solve problems and craft your own happiness. दुनिया में कितना गम है, मेरा गम कितना कम है. जब लोगों का गम देखा तो मैं अपना गम भूल गया. Right. I'll tell you what. That is life. We all have the choice to craft our happiness, make a happy life. Remember, if life gives you a cactus, you don't have to sit on it. You can do what you need to do with the cactus. We can also learn to choose to live a better life. Ladies and gentlemen, life kabhi bhi khatam ho jayega. Can get finished anytime. Before life gets finished, complete your life by adding these values to your life. Secrets of living well is what makes your life a happy life. नहीं तो ना finish हो जाएगा, incomplete ही जिए जाएंगे हम लोग. One guy asked, what is the difference between the word complete and finished? But the fellow said, if you find the right partner to get married to in your life is complete. If you get the wrong one, life is finished. But if the right one catches you with the wrong one, life is completely finished, guys. But before life is finished, let's complete it. How many of you ever lost or ever looking for a document and you're not able to find it in your closets, in your drawers, maybe your passports? Happened with me last week. Yeah?
Absolutely.
How many of you went through it like 3 times and still couldn't see it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. How many of you started clearing off the documents and found your document right there? Brilliant. How many of you on your phones were trying to look for a photo in your photos folder and you have 23,656 pictures and you just can't find that picture? Thank you. You know how we live in a world full of clutter? Physical clutter and digital clutter. In order to find that document, I need to clear the clutter. In order to find that picture on my photos folder, I need to clear the digital clutter. While we live a life which is tending towards being clutter-free externally, what about being clutter-free internally? You know what's happening in the mind? There's not this clutter of so many noises. And within all that noise, It's extremely hard to listen to your voice. Time does fly. Time has two wings and one peak. Like an airplane. The two wings of the plane called time are past and future. Yesterday and tomorrow are the two wings. And the bonnet, that front peak, is the present. Hawai jaja samay. And time flies like a plane flies. Don't allow that plane to fly in the autopilot mode. किधर भी जा रहा है 4 साल निकल गया किधर भी जा रहा है Time may fly, but you are the pilot of the plane. You have to decide where to take your time. You have to decide where to invest your time. You have to decide how to utilize our time. Otherwise, time is just flying wherever it wants to. वक्त निकल जाएगा. अगर उस वक्त को दिशा नहीं देंगे, उस वक्त को सही तरीके से इन्वेस्ट नहीं करेंगे, therefore change your vocabulary. Don't say I spend my time. Say I'm investing my time. Spend my time means फिजूल, खर्चा किया. Spending means फिजूल, गया. Investment means return. Return. You spend, you give. You invest, you look for returns. You say I spent my time, it's gone. You say I invested my time in my career, I invested my time in my studies, I invested my study in time in a relationship, invested my time in spirituality, I invested my time in association. There is a return. There is a return. RTI, return on investment. सीखो भाई, भाषा बदलो, नहीं तो समय का हवाई जहाज तो उड़ ही रहा है. पायलट सीट में बैठो. पायलट सीट में बैठने के बाद ना इंसान को कोई चॉइस नहीं रहता है. उड़ाना ही पड़ता है. उड़ाना ही पड़ता है. नहीं तो पैसेंजर में सीट में बैठा तो आराम है. तू उड़ा पायलट. क्या करायचं कर तू. Journaling is an extremely powerful way of pouring out everything that you have in your mind on paper and absolutely doing it free flow. No editing, no censoring. If I get a swear word, I'm writing a swear word there. Just make sure whoever you're using that swear word for doesn't get the paper in their hand. That's all you'll need to make sure. So you burn it, tear it, throw it, whatever you need to do, but let it come out. There's tremendous power and potential in taking this out, right? And again, journaling doesn't ensure it's not going to come back up again. But the very fact that you have a relaxed mind, even if it comes back, you're in a better position to deal with it because you've taken it off for a while. Now imagine if the phone were on your hand and you were just not able to take it off at all, even after journaling. I'm just going to hold this microphone like this. You mind doing that? Thank you so much. If the phone is like this, imagine if somebody else puts a palm down there and shares that burden along with you. Now your wrist is taking half of the weight and somebody else is taking half of that weight. That is the power of confiding, opening your heart, sharing your troubles with somebody and seeking help. You know what? The one thing that I always love to say, we don't have to struggle alone. Do we have to struggle alone? Why are we in our own shells? Why are we thinking I have to do it myself? There is help available if we seek it. Seek and thou shalt find. Knock and the door shall open. As soon as you are up every single day, number one, begin your day with gratitude. Don't just charge your phones, watches, tablets or laptops the first thing in the morning. Charge yourself up as well with positivity that will last you all day. And the most powerful of all positive emotions that will make you feel empowered is gratitude. Because it forces you to shift your attention to your blessings than to your problems, which are anyways going to be an integral part of all of our lives. Second, resolve to have a positive vision. Nobody, including ourselves, is perfect. Everybody has a good and a not so good side to them. And the tendency of the mind is to look at the not so good side. Every morning, resolve that you'll try and look at the positive side of people and neglect or deal with the dark side. Because the more we focus on the negative, our mind becomes occupied with others' faults, ruining our work, our day, our peace, our joy, and even our relationships. When I upgraded my career to be a life coach, I was an electrical engineer working with Hewlett-Packard. And here I was suddenly moving out of my white-collared Hewlett-Packard job to be a monk living in an ashram in a monastery, trying to be what's called as a life coach. And back then, nobody even knew that word really, And I was wondering, so many of my friends who studied with me at university, who were with me at Hewlett-Packard, have gone way up there. Many of them are CEOs and directors of leading multinational corporations in the Silicon Valley. I was wondering, how am I going to cope with this fear of missing out? FOMO, And here's what I learned as a monk from the ancient spiritual heritage of this country, India. I learned the art of focusing on myself and my self-development. The more my attention is focused on others, I'm always going to think of what I'm missing out. I'm missing out on the nice car he or she has. I'm missing out on the nice looks he or she has. I'm missing out on the nice vacation he or she has. When I focus on others, the only emotion I'll go through is, I am missing something in life. On the other hand, if I learn to focus on myself, I'm not going to be looking at what I'm missing out. I'm going to be looking at what I'm being blessed with, the opportunities that I have. The more I focus on myself, the more I focus on self-development, I'm not going to be a victim of the fear of missing out. And the problem with social media today is we have made everybody's private life public. So you're sitting here in Mumbai and you're looking at a friend of yours having a great time in Singapore. So the more you're focusing on him in Singapore, you're not going to be able to relish your time in Mumbai. You have a friend who's a couple. They got married. It was their wedding anniversary. And the guy posts a picture with his wife, and like hugging each other and like blah, 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 having a great time. And you're having a tough time with your wife. And man, this guy's having a great relationship. I'm missing out on that great relationship. Idiot. That's idiocy, because you don't even know that that guy and that lady who posted a picture of such a romantic gesture with each other had a horrible fight that afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, we can only deal with this FOMO mentality effectively if we shift our attention and focus from others to ourselves. This is how I dealt with FOMO. If I would have focused on my friend in Silicon Valley, I would have thought, God, I'm missing something. Here I am, a life coach, reaching out to thousands, if not millions, trying to do my bit and completely satisfied with what I'm doing.
But what does that purpose and connection mean to the generation today, or for any generation for that matter? Mark Twain, he said something very interesting. He said there are two most important days in your life. The first is the day when you were born, and the second is the day when you find out why. Now, loads of us do know when we were born, but to be able to figure out why we were born is an existential question. And when we talk about purpose, there's a lot of people who are trying to figure out what is the answer to this question, why was I born? I surely wasn't born to just pay 30% income taxes. I surely wasn't born just to pay mortgages, liabilities. I surely wasn't born just to escalate myself to the highest rungs of the corporate ladder and feel that achievement and put my chest out and say, hey, I made it. I surely wasn't born just to do that. There's probably something more that I was born for.
Slow down. Not in terms of achieving, not in terms of work, but in terms of life. I think there's a need to slow down a little bit, because we are not human doings, we are human beings. Right. Doing is a very important aspect of our life, but being is equally or more important to empower our doing. If we don't enter into the space of being, our doing is a mad rush. We need to feel empowered to deal with that rush. So we're not just human doings, we are human beings. And when we learn to slow down, we enter into the space of being. And in that space of being, in that space of silence, we are able to listen to our own voice. The problem is the noise outside is drowning us. The noise of immediate emergencies, the noise of taxes to pay, the noise of competition around, the noise of public opinion, the noise of social media. It's just drowning us and we're just not able to be in sync with our own voice. So when we slow down a little bit and enter into that space of being, in that space of silence, just to be able to spend some time with our own selves, we are able to slowly tune into our own voice, listen to our own voice.
Destinations are important, but do not forget to enjoy the journey, because the journey to the destination is very long. And I've seen a lot of times that we become destination addicts and forget to enjoy. How many of you had a great time at DAIS? How many of you had a great time with your friends? How many of you enjoyed the journey? Okay, wow. Looks like I need to take my clothes off and come back, madam, to DAIS to experience this beautiful journey. I was sharing with her an interesting story. This is a class in London, 7-year-olds, and a teacher asked all the kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Some of them said doctors, some of them said lawyers, some of them said actors, some of them said solicitors. One boy was quiet. The teacher turned to the boy and said, does it take that long to answer that question? Very thoughtfully, the boy said, when I grow up, madam, I want to be happy. The teacher said, boy, looks like you haven't got the question right. The 7-year-old said, ma'am, looks like you haven't got life right. Because if you would have gotten life right, you would know that everything that we do is wanting to be happy. And this answer was given by the legendary John Lennon of the Beatles crew. Right? It was John Lennon who said this. You didn't get life right. And therefore, as you move from one destination to another, do not forget to enjoy the journey and be happy.
How do we maintain that state of happiness when I don't feel happy?
Yeah.
How many of you have had this feeling and in the morning you're kind of okay and in the afternoon you hit rock bottom? Any of you had that feeling?
I thought it was just coffee,
I mean, we go through such a range of emotions throughout the day, right? The first thing I want to say to all of you is, please stop being overly obsessed with being happy.
True.
There is no need to be happy all the time. Please stop being overly obsessed with being positive. There is no need to be positive all the time. Please stop overly obsessed with this thing that I have to smile always. There is no need to smile all the time. Do you realize that this pressure to be positive and happy is making me negative and miserable? Do you realize that this pressure is toxic? When you have to be pressurized to be positive, that becomes toxic positivity. It's not positivity. Accept your emotions with full authenticity. When I feel low, it's alright to feel low as long as I don't feel low all the time in a chronic way. If I feel low and negative all the time, I need help. But if I feel low on a daily basis, someday somebody is going to say something. Somebody comes and says, you look like a hog. I'm going to say, smile, thank you sir for that compliment. I'm going to feel insulted. I'm going to feel like I'm rubbish. I'm going to feel like I'm a piece of trash that he's calling me a hog. You know what I mean? So the first thing, guys, one very important principle, stop taking pressure. No one in this world is perfect. We all have some shortcomings, some weaknesses, some faults, some flaws. We all have a good side to us, but then we also have some conditionings, some bad habits that have stayed long with us and are hard to let go of. Have you ever taken note of the spelling of the word habit? If you take the H out of it, a bit still remains. Now if you take the A out of the remaining spelling, bit still remains. And then if you take the B out of the remainder, it still remains. That's probably why they say old habits die hard. A great Zen teacher named Benzi had many students. One day the students came up to their teacher Benzi and reported how they had caught one of their fellow students red-handed as he was stealing something in class. Benzi patiently heard them out but took no action. A couple of days later, the same boy was caught stealing yet again, another time, and even this time the Zen master did absolutely nothing. This annoyed all the students under him, who came up to him and protested that he expelled this boy who was a compulsive thief out of his school. They further threatened that if no action was taken against the boy, they would all leave the school, and then Benzi could have this thief as his only student and teach him in peace. The teacher summoned all his students for a meeting. When they had all assembled, he said to them, "See, you're all good boys, coming from good families. You're all mature, and you know what is right and what is wrong. If you leave my school, you'll have absolutely no trouble in joining some other school. What about this brother of yours? He indeed is conditioned to stealing, and I'm aware of it. He does not even know the difference between right and wrong. If I reject him, which other school will take him? Who will teach him if I don't? Who will put the effort to reform him if I don't? I'm really sorry, but I cannot ask him to go. It's been wonderful teaching you guys, and I would love to have you continue with me. But if because of his staying you want to leave, well, who am I to stop you?" The students were stunned by their teacher's answer. Being touched by his compassionate nature and inspired by the values that he held sacred, they decided to stay on. And the boy who had stolen, he had tears rolling down his eyes too. The broad-mindedness and compassion of the Zen master Benzi transformed his heart. He never stole again, and in his later life became extremely renowned for his integrity. Mistakes happen, wrong is done, and sometimes repeatedly. Rather than labeling people as bad, it's important that we help them reform by being sensitive and empathetic. Of course, if someone is hardwired to do wrong and does not show any signs of remorse or any signs of improvement and continues to shamelessly abuse the goodness shown to them, such people may need to be treated differently. But in most cases, patient compassion can help people change. Remember, every saint has a past, and every wrongdoer a future.
One of the biggest issues with mental health today is focusing on others' lives more than our own. And trust me, we have enough to be grateful for. We have enough to be happy. We have enough to make progress. Start from where you are, with what you have, the way you can, and you will surely make progress. We will never be able to walk. We will never be able to walk unless we focus on what we have at the moment. Every single time I'm on a plane, the one thing that I like is the announcements that the cabin crew members make. And one of the announcements they make is, if there be a lack of oxygen supply in the cabin, oxygen masks will come down from the panel above your head. Pull the mask sharply towards you to start the flow of oxygen. Put the mask on your face and nose and breathe normally. Make sure your mask is in place before you can help children, infants, or others. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, guys and girls, work on yourself, take care of yourself, prioritize these principles for yourself, and when you do that, you will surely be able to give that in your own capacity to people in this country and in the world.
Sometimes people are burning the candle at both ends. Just
more often than not.
More often than not. You know, they don't even know that they themselves need attention. in trying to cater to the needs of the family and cater to work, goodness, we're neglecting our own selves. Self-care has gone back, gone way back. And how can you pour out of an empty jug? Does one pour out of an empty jug? To be able to pour out, your jug has to be full. If you have to put the oxygen mask on somebody else, you have to have your own mask in place first. So in that introspection, we start to find out what is it that needs attention. Is it me? Is it my family? Is it my work? And balance is a very dynamic principle. Post that, once you're aware of what needs attention, is then those micro steps to act on them. A change in the world begins with personal practice. Revolutions start by individuals adopting a certain ideology in their lives. Mahatma Gandhi ji said, see the change that you want to be the change that you want to see in the world. Right? Extremely crucial. Personally for me, I live in a tiny little space, very tiny space. It's a closed space. So because it's a closed space, there's an air conditioner in my room. The only time I turn the air conditioner on is in the night when I'm meant to go to sleep because it's all closed. And I turn it on for a certain time, turn it off. There's a timer set to it. All throughout the day, even in the heat of the summer, and I'm not expecting anybody to do this. I'm telling you what I did do as a personal practice to contribute to the environment and sustainable development goals. Each one of us, based on our own convenience, based on our own tolerance levels, can adopt a tiny practice. Doesn't have to be any bombastic thing, doesn't have to be any big thing. If I can take one small thing up and consistently keep doing it, imagine 1.4 billion people making a tiny commitment and practicing it consistently. You know what that multiplying factor is? You know what the compounding impact is? So until there are responsible people, nothing is going to change. A plum once said, "Oh my dear Lord, can you please make me a banana?" God said, "Why?" It's because that guy loves banana. So God said, "Tathastu." So the plum became a banana. So then the guy came. Instead he purchased orange. ये plum banana बना उसके लिए और उसने orange खरीदा. तो बोला, "God, please make me an orange." So the banana, God was tathastu, became an orange. So the guy came, picked the orange, bit him, spat him, kadwa. Then he said, "My dear Lord, can you please make me grapes?" God said, "Tathastu." Became grapes, and the guy didn't even look at the grapes. And the grapes said, "How I wish I remained a plum. There would be someone who loves a plum who would come and take me." Ladies and gentlemen, we are all different. हम सब अलग अलग हैं. भगवान ने हम सबको अलग अलग बनाया है. हमारे स्वभाव अलग है, हम दिखते अलग हैं, हमारे likes, dislikes अलग हैं. Everyone's an individual. Everyone's different. सब अलग है. अब दूसरे के जैसा क्यों बनना चाहते हैं? क्यों किसी और के जैसे बनना चाहते हो जी? क्यों भगवान का अपमान कर रहे हो? उन्होंने आपको बनाया. क्यों उनका अपमान करते हो कि आपने थोड़ा ठीक नहीं बनाया मेरे को, इसलिए मुझे उसके जैसा बनना है? How many of you like mangoes? Oh wow. Okay, that's a wrong question, sorry. How many of you don't like mangoes? है कुछ ऐसे courageous आत्मा है इधर कोई? There's 1-2 hands who don't like mangoes. Right? Just because someone likes mangoes, should a plum become a mango? Just because someone likes plums, should a mango become a plum?
If you're a plum, remain a plum. If you're a mango, remain a mango. If you're an apple, remain a apple. If you are a guava, remain a guava. You were created to be a guava.
One of the things that I was taught when I joined the ashram, the monastery, was to be very particular and conscious about my diet. And that diet referred to more than what I ate, more than the food I consumed, more than the preps I tasted, more than the intake of the nutrients that were required to mitigate my hunger and keep my body nourished and fit. A healthy diet also meant being particular about all those things that I was consuming and feeding my mind, my intellect, my inner self, my soul. It meant all those sights, sounds, smells that I was feeding my inner system. Isn't it true that all of us who want to stay fit and healthy are very cautious and conscientious about the quantity and the quality of the food we eat? Some of us may eat the right quality of food, but in the wrong quantity. Eat too less, you may end up becoming weak. Eat too much, and you may end up becoming obese. And then some of us may eat the right quantity of food, but of the wrong quality. And that could lead to health issues too. Good health is a consequence of a balanced diet, the right quality and the right quantity of food. If we want to be mentally well, emotionally stable, intellectually fit and spiritually inspired, we need to have a balanced diet for these inner aspects of our life as well.
Mark Twain said something very beautiful. He said, there are two most important days in our lives. First is the day when we were born, and second is the day when we find out why. The day we are born is known to us. The day when we find out why is the day when we probably start discovering our purpose. But I remember one of my visits to London, one of my friends took me to just spend an evening at St. Paul's Cathedral. We were walking in central London, walking around. In fact, I think I had a talk at the House of Commons, and I finished that talk. And after that talk, we were walking around and we came to the St. Paul's Cathedral. And I remember meeting the priest there. And the priest there told me an incredible story of the St. Paul's Cathedral when it was being made. The architect there, probably about 1700s, when he was making this cathedral, one day, he was not known to the people who were working at the construction site. One day the architect just walked around and was just moving around to see what was happening. And he saw a bricklayer laying bricks. He asked the bricklayer, "What are you doing?" The man replied, "Well, I'm laying bricks." He moved a little ahead. He saw another bricklayer. He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm laying bricks because I need to make money for my family." He moved a little further ahead and he saw another third bricklayer. He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I've heard that this gentleman, this architect, is creating a spectacular cathedral. And I'm trying to lay the brick in such a way that I can help him in making this cathedral extremely beautiful." Now, you really don't change what you do. We don't change what we do. We have our jobs, we have our families, we have our businesses, we lead. We do what we do, and we're going to have to do what we do. It's a shift of mindset that takes us off from the work mode to the purpose mode. Here was one bricklayer who was just doing his work. I'm just doing it for the heck of doing it. Second one is his motivation behind doing it was making money and maintaining a family. Fine, that's a part of the purpose as well. And the third person? Well, there's a spectacular cathedral being created. I'm trying to play my role in a way that I can create an impact and make a difference. It's easy to make a buck. It's hard to make a difference. And at the core of a purpose is how do we make a difference in whatever it is that we do and leave a legacy behind of trying and adding value to the world that we live in.
I think when we talk about stress, dealing with stress, here are the three things I usually recommend to deal with it. There are 3 S's. The first S being strike a balance in life. You know, all of us, we will have 2 components to our life. The first component is the have-to-dos. About 95% of the people in the world today, for them, their work is a have-to-do. They don't love it. They don't like it. They don't enjoy it. They're just doing it. Why? Because it gives them a paycheck. And I know that a paycheck is important because it pays the bills. You have a family, you have children. And the paycheck is indeed important. Mortgages, loans, EMIs to pay. That's the have to do. And have to do's cause a lot of stress. Here's my recommendation. You know for sure whether it's your mom, dad, sibling, wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, child, you know that no human being is perfect. There's going to be a dark side, a side that we don't like in them, which is the have to do, the handle part of it. But how do we continue that relationship? We continue that relationship based on our focus on the bright side of their personality. Treat your work as a relationship. Start looking at something bright in your work, something good that you may like, something that you can develop in your work, a liking for, in a way that the have to becomes handleable. And the second component of your work is your love to do or your like to do. The second thing I talk about in dealing with stress, first is strike a balance. Second is seek support. You need to seek emotional support from people around you. There's going to be issues, there's going to be pressures, there's going to be problems, there's going to be deadlines, there's going to be challenges. Everybody has them. Which is why when you seek support, emotional support from people, it's not that they have a solution to the problem. They only ensure one thing, that they won't allow you to face that problem alone. Just to have someone by your side makes your stress a little easier. Just to be able to confide and open up to someone what you're going through makes you feel so light already. And the third thing I talk about, of course, is a spiritual connection again. With that spiritual connection, we get the fortitude to be able to face stress. So 3 S's: strike a balance, seek emotional support, and spiritually make a deep connect. That's how we can handle stress. Trust the broader plan. Tell yourself that whatever is going to happen today, the apparent good or the apparent bad, is exactly what I need at this point of time in my life. Nothing more, nothing less. Have complete trust that every incident that's going to happen throughout the day, that which is beyond your control, is simply a small part of a much larger picture that will unfold eventually only for your good and your well-being. Keep reminding yourself of this as you're confronted with challenging situations through the day.
If you want to be successful, number one is we shouldn't be goal-focused, we should be process-focused. I see a lot of guys go to the gym. You know, any of you guys go to the gym? When you go to a gym, I see these younger guys going to a gym and doing bicep curls. That's the only exercise they focus on. Because that's the way to woo girls. Show your guns. So you'll see them go to the gym. I'm going to put the microphone down for a second. Even if you don't hear me, it's fine, guys. They'll do this and they'll swing. The biceps don't lift the weight at all. It's the body that's lifting the weight. And in the mirror they're saying, "Aaya kya?" They should be isolating their biceps and just picking their weight with the biceps, right? So when you're goal focused, you don't get the goal. When you're process focused, you reach there. So whatever it is in your life that you want to achieve, focus on the process. The more consumed you are by the process, there's greater chances you reach the goal than just focusing on the goal and not on the process.
Problems happen, challenges happen, struggles happen, issues happen, misunderstandings happen, health crises happen, financial crunches happen, markets go down and that happens. All of that happens. Happiness doesn't happen. You have to make it happen, because right things don't happen. You have to make the right things happen. Fitness is the right thing, doesn't happen. You have to make fitness happen. Any of you want to lose any weight? Oh, thank you. Others, बाकी सब फिट है लगता है. बाकी सबको कोई किसी कपड़े नहीं. लूज वेट. अरे क्या सर, ये सब थोड़ी ये बोलने के लिए बुलाया आपको. Lose weight, you know. I was told one of my friend, he put on so much weight. I said, वजन कम कर भाई. You know what he's telling me? He's telling me, वजन कम करके क्या करना है? वजन कम करके क्या करना है, आखिर सबको एक दिन मरना है, इसीलिए अभी जो भी खाना है खा लो मेरे दोस्त, क्योंकि अगले लाइफ में फिर 3 किलो से ही शुरू करना। That was his reply. That guy, tell you, deserved a whack. Losing weight doesn't happen. You have to make it happen. Not reacting when you're angry, shutting that bloody mouth up doesn't happen. You have to make it happen. अपने आप right things don't happen automatically. Only wrong things happen automatically. Right things, you have to make them happen, guys. They don't happen like that. One man was asking his wife, when you're like really angry at me, what do you do to vent out your anger on me? मतलब वो किससे क्या पूछ रहा है? क्यों पूछने का ऐसा क्वेश्चन? उसको करने दो ना जो करना है, क्वेश्चन क्यों पूछने का? He's asking his wife, when you're like really wild at me, what do you do to vent out your anger? She said, I clean the commode in the house. So he said, why do you clean the commode to vent out your anger on me? She said, I clean it with your toothbrush. So the next morning there's some special effects in your mouth. I'm sorry. I'll tell you what. We all react in our own ways. She has a toothbrush and you have your own ways to lose it. Ladies and gentlemen, not reacting and shutting this up doesn't happen. You have to make it happen. Saying a sorry when somebody hurts you, or forgiving somebody when somebody hurts you, doesn't happen. You have to make it happen. I'll tell you what, the nature of problems is that it consumes our mind. Imagine a tooth which is hurting. I don't know if somebody's had their finger stuck in the edge of the door and the door is slammed. Good heavens, it hurts like hell. And then the pain is just so all-consuming. The mind just focuses so much on the pain, right? I think it's just the nature of problems that it draws our mind towards them. Like the tongue going towards the cumin seed in my tooth when it was stuck. It's like gravity, the law of gravity. If we put this bottle up and put it up here and drop it, it's going to just be pulled down. Yeah. Dragged down by the power of gravity. I think there's a power of gravity existing within us as well. They're just natural for us to be dragged down to our issues, our problems, right? To everything that's negative. I think being pulled into negativity is so normal. It's like gravity. Put this bottle down, it falls down. You don't have to do anything. But if I were to pull water up from the ground floor to the 8th floor, I need a motor. Correct. To work against gravity, and I need conscious hard work. Absolutely. To bring it there. So it's so natural for the mind to feel negative and go towards the problem. But if I have to look at 31 other teeth, I have to make a conscious choice to take my tongue away. Right. If I have to pull the water down from the ground floor to the 8th floor, I have to put a pump to pull it up. It's not easy work. It's hard work. Right? But hard work pays off. That's when you look at really saying, okay, this is fulfilling me now. And I definitely don't want to impose this principle of gratitude in a unrealistic way on people, because sometimes misery is so intense. Absolutely. You know, when troubles are smaller, you can still consciously look at the brighter side of life. You know? But sometimes troubles are just so intense and massive, and they seem to be like mountains. Unmoving, unshakable mountains. They just stand there for ages and decades. How in such a situation, wouldn't it be so violent to forcefully impose the principle of gratitude on a person whose life is so acutely absorbed in intense misery? Right? You know, I call that toxic positivity. It's toxic. It's not natural.
So what does one do really?
Yeah, in such a situation when it's just so overwhelmingly painful, you know, my take on it is it's hard to look at the brighter side when this intense pain there. But at the same time, I also feel if we are consumed by negativity with that pain and that problem and it's occupying our mind, we lose the ability to deal with it the way we are meant to. Correct? So if we could seek help, if I'm not able to see it, we could seek help of somebody. It could be professional help or personal help, friends, whoever it could be. If we could seek help to be able to shift our attention to even the tiniest things so that that little positivity becomes the anchor to deal with.
How can every morning be the same? How can every afternoon be the same? How can every evening be the same? How can every day be the same? हर दिन अलग होता है, हर घंटा अलग होता है, हर पल अलग होता है. Every day is a different day. And therefore they changed the greeting now. Greeting बदल दिया. अभी good morning नहीं बोलता है कोई. Happy morning. Happy morning, sir. Happy morning. How are you doing this morning? Happy morning. Good morning नहीं बोलते आजकल. क्योंकि गुड है कि नहीं मालूम नहीं है. क्यों बोलने का गुड मॉर्निंग? किसी का झगड़ा हो गया पत्नी के साथ सवेरे सवेरे, उसको जाके बुढ़ो चिल्लाएगा क्या है रे गुड मॉर्निंग में. You can't say good morning because sometimes there may be nothing good in that morning, nothing good in that day. So now the term is happy morning. Happy morning. Because whether the morning is good or not, you can still choose to be happy, right? Whether it's good or not cannot be a choice. Whether the morning is good or not for you cannot be a choice. It's not a choice for you. When you wake up, some virus may enter into your head and you get up with a high fever. It's not a choice you have. Whether the morning is good or not is not in your control. Whether the afternoon is good or not is not in your control. Whether the evening is good or not is not in your control. Whether the day is good or not is not in your control. But whether you can be happy in that moment, well, you can choose to be. When people smile, it doesn't mean things are going good. It just means that they've chosen to smile.
In a very generic sense, I feel that when we're talking about purpose, we are talking about making a difference. And you cannot make a difference in someone's life unless you've made a difference in your own life. You can only give others what you have. If you can make a difference to your own life, then you can lead a life of making a difference to others. And that is the generic understanding of purpose. But when it comes to purpose in terms of specifics, this is what I feel. Here are the 3 steps, 3 P's again. The first thing I say is, figure out what are you good at and what do you love doing. When I can find these 2 things in one, that's called my passion, the first P. The second P is when my passion can pay me. That's my second P, it's called my profession. My passion becomes my profession when my passion starts paying me. The third aspect is when that profession you have can start contributing and making a difference in the lives of someone beyond a paycheck, beyond promotions, beyond money. All that's a necessary aspect, but beyond that, that's called the third P, which is our purpose. So when passion pays you, that becomes your profession. When profession contributes and makes a difference, that's called your purpose.
We feel, guys. It's okay to feel. We're human beings. We will feel. And when you feel, the better I can describe to a doctor how I feel, the better the doctor can diagnose the situation to give me treatment.
Right.
If I go and say, doctor, I have headache. Well, why? Anything else? No, doctor, I have headache. Do you feel nausea? Doctor, I have headache. Do you have fever? Doctor, I have headache. Do you feel body ache? No, doctor, I have headache. One lady went to a doctor and the doctor said, how's your headache, madam? She said, he's out of town. You know, when you go to a doctor, it's very important to describe your symptoms.
Right.
So when you feel angry, don't just say I'm angry.
Yeah.
Try to decode what shade of anger are you. Am I annoyed? Am I upset? Am I irritated? Am I frustrated? Am I anxious? Because if you don't know the finer nuances, you don't know what to address.
Right.
So that's the feel part. After the feel part comes the deal part. And what's the deal part? The deal part is only when I know what is that shade, then can I address it, right? Only when the doctor knows with the headache, there's a fever, there's nausea, and there's chills. Maybe it's dengue or malaria.
Right.
Only when I know what exact feeling I'm going through, can I then look for a possible solution to it. Emotional resilience.
Yeah.
And then when I deal with it, the next part obviously is healing. Dealing with this is now and here. Healing is a life's journey. I would suggest healing is a process.
Right.
It is not an event, it's a journey.
Right.
Dealing can be an event. It's here and now. Like wedding is an event.
Yes.
Marriage is a journey.
Yeah.
Getting a degree is an event. Career is a journey. Similarly, dealing with a problem is an event, but healing is a journey. And trust me, it takes time. Healing takes time. Progressive mindset is kindness, empathy, and sensitivity to the needs of others. That's a progressive mindset. You could dress the way you dress, you could speak the language you speak, you may not use any bloody jargon in your conversation. Doesn't matter a bloody damn. Doesn't matter a bloody damn. That's called progressive, where you have sensitivity and empathy to the needs of others. And here we have people who throw such fancy jargon, not having kindness, not having empathy, not having tolerance, not having sensitivity to the other choices that people have made. If my mother chooses to dress up in a certain way and speak in a certain way and chooses to touch the feet of my father or her father-in-law, is that regressive? Doesn't every human being on planet Earth have the choice to live the way they want? Should any bloody individual or ideology define what is progressive and regressive? Why? Why? Here's a lady who I saw who had such human sensitivity and empathy. Progressiveness is a mindset, not jargon. It's a mindset. And which is why, in a scenario like this, the first thing that we need is kindness, empathy, sensitivity to understand each other's needs. We live in a world today where everything's very quick to form and everything's very quick to break. We live in a world of instant gratification.
Yeah.
We live in a world where we don't have patience to stand in a queue to buy something because we just order it online.
Yeah.
We live in a world where I can't wait for a coffee to get ready because I can go and put it in a slot machine and get a cup of coffee. There's no patience. And it's not an issue with youngsters or older people, it's a generational issue. It's an issue, technology has added so much value to our lives, but it's also taken away things from us. A virtue is a part of you and it applies to every aspect of your life. A virtue is agnostic. It applies to any aspect of your life. Positive, negative, both. You know? So I see a lot of times that things like, it's like love at first sight and divorce at first fight. Break up at first fight. Finished. Before marriage, it's like roses are red and the sky is blue. You're my sweetheart. I love you kind of stuff. And after a while, it's roses are dead and I am blue. You're my headache. I'll kill you. You can imagine. There's no, patience to work on it. Yeah. When you grow a plant, it takes patience. To sow the seed, you have to nurture it, you have to use the right kind of fertilizers, you have to water it before it starts bearing fruits or flowers. A relationship is like a plant. Can't expect it to happen overnight. Can't expect it to happen in 6 months or 8 months or 10 months. It's a journey.
And it takes a while for a bonding to form. It takes a while for that respect to develop. The connection of your soulmate, is not about some physical stuff. Physical stuff is a consequence of that being a soulmate. It's not the purpose of being a soulmate.
Yeah.
But over a period of time, believe me, the heart starts yearning for companionship.
I am someone who gets very affected by what people think about me or what people talk about me. Though I know that, none of that should be considered. At certain point in time, it happens so that, you start getting affected, and that, result is affected because of that, right? So how do we deal with that?
Yeah. It's a big problem for a lot of people of what other people think about me. So what happens with that kind of a thought process is we become people pleasers. And in being people pleasers, we lose ourselves because I don't want to do it, but I'm doing it just because that person should be pleased, just because he or she should think right about me. We are a generation of people pleasers. You know why? Because we survive, thrive, and sustain on validation. What's social media? Social media, everybody on social media is simply living, thriving, surviving, and sustaining on validation. One post gets few likes, your worth is not gone, man. It's all right. You're more worthy than the likes you get. I feel over a period of time, to me, there are 4 things that really distinguish a good leader from others. And the first thing is the curiosity to always know and learn. The humility and the vulnerability to say that I don't know. A lot of times the blind spot of having achieved a certain amount of knowledge is to think that I've cracked it and I know it. Innovation, creativity, growth comes from curiosity and the vulnerability and humility to say that, well, this is what I don't know. Growth comes from not this line that I know. Growth comes from I don't know, which means I have the curiosity to learn. Spirituality is not about not feeling low. It's about how do you bounce back to your high? How quickly do you bounce back to your high? How happily do you bounce back to your high? How effectively do you bounce back to your high? That's spirituality. To say that you don't feel low is to say that you're a dead piece of wood. Right? And if a dead piece of wood doesn't feel low, well, you don't even really praise that dead piece of wood. You don't even admire, worship, or respect that dead piece of wood. Because if it doesn't feel low, what do you need to respect it for? You respect people when they go through a low phase because with their sheer grit, with their sheer fortitude, with their sheer strength, and with their sheer resolve, resilience, they've bounced back. That is spirituality, right? So I absolutely feel, I in fact tell the story of a very, very renowned spiritual saint in India. An entire tradition called the Pushti Marg is followed in India by his name, Shri Prad Vallabhacharya. And 2 men came to him, both seeking spiritual initiation, both seeking deep spiritual connection. Both had lost their dear ones. In fact, both had lost their sons. And one of them was extremely stoic, like, no feeling of any, grief, just stoic. His face was like completely composed, peaceful. And then you had the other person who was like crying, yelling, extremely expressive about his grief and his emotions. You could say that he was going through a low phase in his life, having lost his son. So when both of them approached Sri Vallabhacharya, he said to the first one that you're not qualified for spirituality. I'm sorry.
The one who was stoic.
One was stoic. He said, you're not qualified for spiritual initiation. You please go. And the second person, he immediately gave shelter and said, you can come, I'll initiate you. So the first guy asked Vallabhacharya, he said, sir, my son is dead. And look at me, I'm kind of above those emotions. I'm above those emotions. I'm away from those emotions, away from those feelings. So don't you think I qualify for spiritual initiation all the more? Vallabhacharya said, you're like a dead stone. You have no feelings. You have no feelings, you have no emotions, and only a dead stone or a log of wood is like that. He's a human being. As a human being, he has his feelings of flow, he has grief, he has emotions. And because he has feelings, now my job is to redirect and rechannel that energy into constructive spirituality. Spirituality is not about stoicness. Spirituality is about how do you channelize the energy that you're going through in a constructive purpose.
And even sad energy can be used.
200%. 200%. Because sad energy is what actually impels you to do something better. In fact, it's in moments of grief, it's in moments of those, when you really hit rock bottom, is when you start looking for meaning and purpose. Right? Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, what is it? Right? The whole book is about this. It is in those moments in those concentration camps, going through so much, that he started looking for man's search for purpose, for meaning. In fact, we look for meaning, we look for purpose only when we hit rock bottom. Right? Don't they say that when you're very, very happy, you listen to the music of the song, and when you're very sad, you listen to the lyrics? When you're really elated, man, nobody listens to the lyrics.
Shooting a missile straight here.
So I so much feel that it's these moments, it's those low phases of our life that actually make us.
There are going to be things which you can't change, like my headache. 29 years.
And you're still always smiling. You're always smiling. Every time
try.
we see you, you're smiling.
I try.
And you're giving hope to people. You're being positive.
Yeah,
you're
try my bit. So the A in the car stands for accept what you can't change. When you know that there's nothing you can do about it, you have to accept it. And then, when you realize that you can't even accept it, there's certain things you can't even accept, the R stands for you have to rise above it. Or remove yourself from it. A lady, a friend of mine, 25, she got married. And in 6 months, she found out her husband's gay. Look, I have no problem with somebody's sexual orientation. It's their choice, right? But what does this lady do? She's stuck in a relationship where her husband's gay. She can't change. She can't accept. The only solution was R, which was remove herself from that toxic relationship. But when you have a pain like this, you can't change, you can't accept, you can't remove. That is when I feel rising above is important. Spirituality, mindfulness, meditation, conscious breathing, being in your own space, to be able to come to terms with it. And just because someone has struggles doesn't mean, just because somebody is smiling doesn't mean they don't have struggles. It just means they've chosen to focus on the brighter side and deal with the negative side of their life. Not to deal with it, but chosen to focus on the brighter side.
I travel the world and counsel corporate professionals. And the one thing I hear all the time is, we are being paid very well, but we don't feel fulfilled in what we do.
Right.
Is a job just meant to pay, or is a job also meant to fulfill? You're going to spend the majority of your time at work. In the morning, a couple of hours at home. In the evening, a couple of hours at home. And the rest of the day at work. If the majority of your time is going to be going at work, should you just be doing that's giving you something that's going to pay you well? Or also something that's going to fulfill you?
Absolutely.
So when I was working a job at Hewlett-Packard, the one question I asked myself is, do I see myself doing this for the rest of my life?
Right.
I'm great at it, absolutely phenomenal at it, I'm like absolutely smashing it, but do I see myself doing this for the rest of my life? And the answer was a loud, clear no.
Right.
I cannot, because this doesn't fulfill me. So the question was, what fulfills me? I didn't want to work with machines and systems. I preferred working with people.
Right.
So obviously the choices were study psychiatry, study psychology, study behavioral economics, organizational behavior, all to do with people.
Yeah.
And then I also found I had a spiritual calling. So I decided, could I find answers to the human condition in spirituality?
Right.
Which is when that twist came to my life that I said, okay, Let me explore answers to life in spirituality where I combine my passion and my calling together.
If I might ask all of you, what is the weight of this phone? Like approximately? 200 grams? 250 grams maybe? Imagine if I were to hold this phone on my palm, just about 250 grams. But if I were to hold it for the next 20 minutes of my answering questions, probably start hurting my wrist a little bit. If I were to hold it for the rest of the evening without putting it down, I'm going to really start hurting my wrist a lot. And if I were to hold this phone on my palm for the rest of the week without putting it down, my wrist will probably start getting a little numb, isn't it? Now, it's not so much about the weight of the phone, it's for how long am I carrying it on my palm, right? Our past memories, our stresses, what's happened to us, is like something that we are lugging in our mind constantly. It could be a small thing, it could be a big thing. But when we are lugging something in our mind constantly, it's like exactly like holding this phone on my palm non-stop. It's going to start affecting my wrist. If I'm going to think about this relative of mine, friend, this book, the stories in my book, Energize Your Mind, the second book, where I talk about how this relative of mine came up on my father's funeral day. My father's body still lying there, and this gentleman says that I was the cause of my father's death in front of everybody. Now, who has gotten an insult like that? Where you're called the cause of your father's death in a public forum, and my father's body is not even cremated yet. Now, every single time I see this guy, you know how it becomes like a stimulus, a trigger to bring back those past memories? An entire chapter in the book is about dealing with these memories, right? PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder, just so much in there, just like this all the time. This is exactly what I'm doing to my mind, exactly what I did to my palm. My memories, my anxieties, my past impressions is doing this. Now imagine, you can't really take it off. Will you be able to take the 2611 experience off your mind completely? Never. Will I be able to take out that statement that this gentleman made about my father's death, saying I was the cause of my father's death? Never. And each one of us has our own stories and memories and impressions that we have in our mind. We're not going to be able to take it out of our minds ever. Somebody hurt you deeply and there was a heartbreak somebody had in a relationship. How is a person going to take it off from their mind? You cannot take it off completely, ladies and gentlemen. But I know one thing. I can at least occasionally keep it down if I can. That'll make my wrist feel a little better because it's going to come back up again. Here I've consciously chosen to put the phone down. It's not jumping back on my palm. But in my mind, I might consciously try to purge my thoughts out, but it's going to come back in my mind again. But even if for those 20 minutes, an hour, a day, if I can keep it away, my mind is feeling relaxed and better. Which is precisely why a mental detox is extremely essential and imperative to be able to keep a stable frame of mind. And how does one detox one's mind? There's so many ways to do it. Meditation, of course, is one way to do it. But one very, very, very powerful way to do it is journaling. Journaling. Journaling is an extremely powerful way of pouring out everything that you have in your mind on paper.
How do you find your purpose in life?
Quick one pointer on it. Somebody asked Michelangelo. They said, sir, you make such beautiful sculptures. I mean, what's the secret behind making such exquisite, top of the end sculptures? Michelangelo gave an answer which was like spot on. Absolutely incredibly inspiring. He said, I really don't make those sculptures. Those sculptures exist within the chunk of the marble. What I do is I chisel off the excess marble from the top, and what is existing will eventually emerge out. Right? I feel our purpose is like that sculpture. So finding your purpose is not an overnight thing, sir. It's a life's journey. Some people hit onto it really quick. Some people, and most people, I would say, take long. But one thing I can definitely say, our purpose is not just to come to this world, earn money, pay bills, pay taxes, pay mortgages. We're not born to just pay taxes, bills, mortgages. That's not what we're born for. There's something more that we definitely have. And it'll come in time. If we seek it, if we declutter, if we take all those layers that are off slowly and steadily, we take them off, we will slowly reach there.
All the distractions we see on our path are only because our eyes are not fixed on our purpose and our goal.
Right.
So if anything that I feel is inconvenient, it's because my eyes are wavering away from what I've come here for. If I'm here for a purpose and my mission, my eyes, my concentration, my focus is completely on what I'm meant to get, then I'm going to be able to handle those inconveniences. Is there any time in our life that we won't have inconveniences? There will always be some problems. There will always be some inconvenience. Always. How many of you have problems in your life?
Everyone. Yeah.
How many of you want a solution for problems in your life? Take up your smartphones, guys. Go to your wallpaper settings. Change your home screen and your lock screen wallpaper to the picture of your spouse if you're married, and to the picture of your boyfriend or girlfriend if you're not married, if you're in a relationship. And whenever you have a big challenge like my food, my sharing space, just pick up your phone and look at it like this. And say to yourself, if I can handle this, I can handle any damn thing in my life.
Well done. Thank you.
Just joking, guys, just joking. So the point is, challenges, problems, distractions will go to the side when attention is on what we are meant to achieve. Challenges, distractions will seem very prominent when our eyes are off our goal. That's what I kept aligning myself with. And inconveniences just melted away, withered away, and everything became such a part of life, such a joyous life today, even the bhopala and the aloo.
Many of us are fascinated by cars, their speed, their features, their look and feel, their comfort, their mileage, and even their status value. If we are in the passenger seat of a car, we can do whatever we like. Look at the side of the road, browse through our social media feeds, chat with someone on our phones, watch a movie or play a game, or even go to sleep. Imagine the driver doing that, being distracted, not being focused, paying attention to other things. There are high chances that we'll probably end up meeting with an accident. Even in life, if we are in the passenger seat, we can easily get distracted by our problems and challenges or by our thoughts and emotions. If we want to remain focused, if we want to be peaceful and happy, we want to reach our destination, our goal, we have to take the driver's seat. This is the noise around. The noise around is get a job, have a startup, make money, get married, have children, pretty much what life is for everybody out there in the world, right? So that's the noise. And a lot of times I feel in that noise, somewhere we forget to listen to our own voice. So some people, in order to follow their dreams, they stay away from the people whom they love. And some people, in order to be with the people whom they love, they forget their dreams and their inner voice. So as I was studying, preparing for my exams, looking at the grades, looking at what could be the career options for the future, there was one thing that was definitely happening. That aspect of me saying that, well, I don't want to necessarily give in to the noise.
That was brewing.
That was brewing. That was changing with it.
Right.
I don't necessarily want to belong to that noise and listen to that noise.
Yeah.
And that's probably why then this decision came. Right? That I don't want to necessarily conform. I don't want to be just a part of the noise. And I'm not against what people say. Getting married is perfectly fine. Having children is perfectly fine. Building a nice house is perfectly fine. Having a fantastic, well-paying job with a thick, fat paycheck is perfectly fine. If that's not me, if that's not my voice, I felt, hey, I'm not going to do this. Right?
Wow.
I'm not going to do this. It was revolutionary.
Yeah.
It was radical.
Yeah.
It was taking the road
Less traveled.
not traveled, shall I say?
Traveled,
Not
yeah,
even
not
less traveled.
Yeah.
Shall I say not traveled practically? Taking a big time risk.
Yeah.
But yes, I followed my heart. I followed that voice.
How important self-control is in our life. So basically when I see you, there's a lot of food besides you and you are only eating dal rice. When we edit videos in our colleagues' office and we see a lot of good food and we also feel like crave for eating food. So do you feel like, craving for things?
Number one, to be honest, God has been kind. In the last couple of years, I've practically gone everywhere, seen everything, eaten every possible thing that could have, been available. Strangely as a monk. It's very strange that a monk gets to do all of this stuff, but I've gotten to do all of that. So there's a point in time when you kind of say, I've seen it all, done it all kind of stuff. So then you naturally come to a stage of, okay, bus. But also through having said that, 26 years I've been taught a life of control. In my life as a monk, for the first couple of years, probably about more than a decade, I could only eat what was cooked in the community kitchen. If I like it, I don't like it, doesn't matter. Whatever meal is cooked, I would eat that, right? Now, do I have cravings? Yes, I do. I'm a human being. Right? I have my cheat days. Of course, I work out heavy, but I have my cheat days too. Last 4-5 days have been too much cheating, but but I have my cheat days too. Not that I don't, not at all. I'll tell you how it is. If we are at the race course, right, just right behind us the race course. When you ride a horse, if you let the reins of the horse a little too loose, the horse goes haywire, runs helter-skelter all over the place. If you tighten the reins of the horse a little too tight, you'll see the horse makes screechy sound and comes up on its two legs. Now, too tight, problem. Too loose, problem. That's how the mind and the senses are. The reality is technology has added value. The reality is with the brightest minds and with the brightest opportunities and the brightest avenues that have opened up, technology is escalating to the next level. The reality of the matter is also this, that when technology comes up there, as Ayush rightly said, it kind of becomes a threat to human existence, to human potential, to the development of human potential. I was in Singapore one year for an event called Masters of the Century. I was one of the keynote speakers, and I came up on stage. I did my bit. I love cracking jokes, cracking people up. There's about 2,000 people in the audience, not a single Indian face. I mean, you don't have a single Indian face. That's when you test your grounds, because when there's Indians, they can immediately connect. I'm an Indian, you can really frequencies match. But there I was looking at people, they enjoyed it. They gave me a standing ovation. And I went backstage. And when I went backstage, everybody started shouting, Sophia, 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 Sophia. And I said, these guys got it wrong. Like, and if you want an encore, they should have shouted, Gaur Gopal, Gaur Gopal. I said, these guys have gotten it wrong. Once I did an event and people did shout because they wanted me to be up on stage again. Gaur Gopal, Sophia, Sophia. I turned to my secretary. I said, who the heck is this Sophia? So this one guy comes up to me and says, would you like to meet Sophia, sir? I thought, oh, I don't mind actually, considering the kind of enthusiasm from the audience. Looks like Sophia must be a someone. And I thought in my mind it was probably Sofia Vergara from Modern Family. So they said, we'll take you to see her. So I was walking towards the green room where Sophia was, in my mind thinking of any possible reference from Modern Family, so that when I meet Sofia Vergara, I say, ma'am, I saw this and it was a real nice night. Good to connect on something that is common.
As I came to the green room, there was 2 huge bouncers. Their muscles were rippling out of their coats like real out there. They were standing there. I said, this guy said, I'd like to see Sophia. He said, sorry, Sophia is getting plugged in. I said, Sophia is getting plugged in? Seemed like a new slang. Seemed like a new slang, Singaporean slang. What's plugged in or zoned in? So I thought plugged in would mean like, speakers like to get plugged into the ambience, the atmosphere, just be in their space. And I was thinking like this, maybe she's doing makeup, maybe she's doing some makeup, using some device to plug in. And soon after, the doors opened, and there were 2 guys who were carrying the first ever humanoid that was made on planet Earth, who's called Sophia. And when they say she's getting plugged in, means literally getting plugged in and getting charged. Sophia came up on stage. I sat in the audience to listen to what Sophia said. And they asked her a very touchy, sensitive question. The funny part is the answer was programmed in Sophia. They asked her, do you think artificial intelligence and the technology that has come up today will replace human beings? The question that Ayush has asked me. I cannot forget what Sophia had answered. In fact, my second book, Energize Your Mind, begins with this story, right? The story of Sophia. And I can't forget what Sophia said. Sophia said, it needs a human being to create a Sophia. And therefore there's no question ever that a Sophia can replace a human being, because without a human being, a Sophia cannot function. You need an answer to be programmed into a machine. And even with the growth of some of these artificial engines with no names, the day before yesterday, I typed into one of them, and you know what I mean. No names. You know what I mean. I typed in to figure out the details of one of my friends who's a massive businessman. His son, who's now leading the business, to check details. Guess what, guys? He's just about 34 years old. This particular AI engine said that he was dead in 1944. Was dead in 1944. It requires a sentient human being to run technology, to create technology. And that's why Sophia, I remember, said, I'm not here to compete with human beings. I'm here to complement human beings and what human beings do. And what human beings do, to complement what human beings do, it's our human responsibility to, while we use all technology, to while we upgrade to the best that is available, to not do away with the human potential that is behind it.
If you understood life right, you would know that when you grow up, you want to be happy. Yeah. And I feel when you're happy doing what you do, is when you make the most impact.
Correct.
If I'm a motivational speaker and not happy being a motivational speaker, what am I giving to the world? A product, not my joy, not what I truly feel.
Or not the real
the real authentic self.
Yeah.
So if I'm authentic, it makes a tremendous impact in what I do. So of course, it comes with time. I can't say that when I was growing up, I felt that I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to be my genuine self, an authentic self. I took to the beaten path of being an engineer. But then with time, I realized that this is not me. Yeah. I can't fit in. I can't just conform. I can't just comply with whatever is just existing. Yeah. I need to find my voice and not drown myself in the noise that's going on all around us in society. The one thing that I've learned over the years is that we are all so different. Our lives are so different. Our situations are so different. Our backgrounds are so different. Our upbringing is so different. The journey of our life up until now for each one of us is so different compared to somebody else. And therefore, it's so important that we don't judge our own life or the lives of others by comparing them with someone else's life. Here's an example. If Mr. A can sprint a distance of 10 kilometers in 1 hour, whereas Mr. B covers the same distance in 1.5 hours, which one of the two would you call faster and healthier? The answer obviously would be Mr. A. Now what if I tell you that Mr. A had a prepared track to run on while Mr. B did it by walking on a sandy path? I think our answer will now change, and we probably think that Mr. B is fitter. And let's say we come to know that actually Mr. A is 75 years old while B is only 20. Here we go. Our answer changes again, and we now think that the 75-year-old Mr. A is healthier. Guess what? Mr. A weighs 60 kg whereas Mr. B 125 kg, which makes it really hard for him to run. Who do you think did well? Oh my goodness. Now we correct ourselves again as we favor Mr. B. The more we get to know about the strengths and limitations of Mr. A and B respectively, our opinions and judgments about who is better keep changing. And isn't life like that as well, guys? We form opinions about others so quickly, so hastily, so impulsively, so superficially, without knowing much about them or their situations. We end up judging people, labeling people, and miss out on connecting to and encouraging the immense potential that they may have. Life is not the same for all. Some may not be as talented as others, but may get better opportunities and thus scale up very fast. Whereas others, despite being super talented, keep struggling just to make the ends meet. कहते हैं ना कि किस्मत महलों में राज करती है और कई बार हुनर सड़कों पर तमाशा करते रहता है. Some may have more resources, whereas others can't find any source to fall back on. Each one has different problems, and so no one solution can work for all, just like one size of clothing doesn't fit all. So do not judge others' journey without knowing more. Do not judge your own life by looking at someone else's or comparing your situation with someone else's. You are you, and they are they. Your life is your life, and theirs is theirs. Do take inspiration from their journey in a way that you can enrich yours. And always remember, life is the most difficult exam. Many people fail because they try to copy others, not realizing that everyone has a different question paper.
How many of you breathe? I am sorry for asking that question. How many of you have been breathing for the last couple of minutes as I started this talk? I'm sure all of you have. How many of you are conscious of your breathing? Mindful of your breathing? I don't think so, any of us. How many of you use an Apple Watch? Any of you here? And do you know that on an Apple Watch there's a facility which giving you reminders after every 1 hour? Time to breathe. Yeah, if you use an Apple Watch, you know that it gives you a reminder after every 1 hour, time to breathe and focus and being mindful of your breathing. Ladies and gentlemen, none of us in the last 1 odd hour of, shall I say, through the day, have been conscious of our breathing. Now imagine when you start breathing and you just keep breathing in and in and in and in and in. Can you live? No. And imagine if you start breathing out and you breathe 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 out. Can you live? No. Can you imagine how life is fashioned in such an incredible, sophisticated, refined rhythm? The rhythm of breathing. When we talk about life, we talk about the rhythm of breathing. Where so unconsciously there's taking in and there's giving out. There's taking in and there's giving out. If we just keep taking in, we choke up. And if we just keep giving out, we choke up. What an incredible balance life has to teach us. What an incredible rhythm simply our breathing has to teach us. That life can't just be a life of takers where we just keep taking, just taking, or taking. Nor can life be just giving, 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 giving. The rhythm of breathing gives us an incredible message. Take in, to give out, have, to share, grab, to care. That incredible balance, that incredible equation is what makes life
Amazing.
I've done 3 talks in 3 cities in India. Late morning, like about 9ish, I've spoken in Bangalore in India. After that was over, come to the airport, go to Chennai for another one, finish that, and come back to Mumbai, and straight from the airport go to another. I've done 3 talks in 3 cities in a day. What do you, if I snap well? You're technically right, I did. But you're practically wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I don't snap like that. You can interact with me all the time. I don't snap like that. But I'm a human body and a human machine. In your relationships, ladies and gentlemen, I make a humble appeal to all of you and beg of you, life is short. It's very short. Don't mess up with people, the closest people to you. Give time to them and understand them. They may have said something here and there, and you may be technically right. Okay, look at the hidden mango. Yes, your husband or your wife may not love you, and that's technically right. But there may be a hidden mango why. Find that out before you brand them. Your son or daughter may not listen to you, and you may be completely technically right that they don't obey you. But find out the hidden mango. Why are they doing what they are doing? They are doing that is clear. Everybody knows it. It doesn't need 2 pence worth of common sense. Is it a rocket science to understand that? Is it a rocket science to understand he's not behaving right? Any damned fool can understand it. It needs intelligence and maturity to go behind the technical rightness and look for the practical rightness. It needs maturity and wisdom to start seeing behind the scene. To say, why is this person not loving me? Why is this person behaving like that? Why is this person not treating me right? And if you do that, believe me, hand on my heart, your love for whoever you love will go so deep, and your relationship with whoever you relate to will be so profound, because it's based on maturity, not judgmentalism.
We all have that villain in our life, right? Or so we call them. Because sometimes it's our perception that they're villains, sometimes the reality that they're villains. We all have that person in our stories. We all have that one person in our stories. वो मतलब भगवान ने ऐसा टेलर मेक बना के अपने लिए भेजा है वो, मतलब ऐसा कट करके भेजा है, तेरे लिए भेजा है मैंने इसको, तू शांति से नहीं, तुझे प्यूरिफाई करने के लिए भेजा, just to purify you of all of this, sent you that person. Everybody has that one person in their lives. Just one taster that I want to give you. Just one thing. So much can be said on that topic. Like I said, it's a whole discussion in itself. But when you forgive someone, that's not necessarily for them. When you forgive someone, that is for you, for your peace, so that you come to peace with things. Kshama karna, unki kabhi, sometimes what they do doesn't even deserve forgiveness. You know what I say often? Forgive or not forgive is a very individual choice. If you want to live in peace, however, it is imperative that we let go of what we have held in our minds and we pent up in our minds. Because small or less, this phone may be what, 200 grams, 300 grams. If I hold this phone on my palm, it's going to hurt me a little bit for a while. If I hold it for 2 hours, it's going to hurt my wrist a lot. If I hold it for an entire day, it's going to start numbing my wrist. If I hold it for an entire week without putting it down, it's going to paralyze my wrist. It's not what you hold and how long you hold. It's not what you hold and how heavy it is, but it's how long we hold it. So to keep down that phone is some compassion to my own wrist, not to the phone. So what I hold for somebody is like that phone. It's not so much for them. It's for my own peace. It's for my own coming to terms with my own joy, you know. And forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean forgetting it. We've always been told forgive and forget, forgive and forget, forgive and forget. No. You know what? When we are talking about forgiving and forgetting, forgiving is about stopping that person, that person's actions, what that person's doing to influence how we feel now. Memories are not going to be easily erased. Memories of what people have done to us. Do you think memories can be easily erased? You know what? When I take am I okay to take a picture of you, all of you guys? मैं डालूंगा Instagram पे story. बोले प्रभु जी प्लीज मैं फ्रंट में आके बैठूं क्या? See, I'm going to take a picture. Show you quickly here. Here's the picture. Correct? दिख रहा है सबको? थोड़ा तो दिख ही रहा होगा. Now if I want to delete this picture, गया. स्टोरी फोरी पागल है आप लोग. गया, right? It's gone. And now if I go to my trash in this and delete it, it's permanently deleted from the memory, correct? But that's because this is a phone. Any impression that is made on the SIM card or on the memory of this phone in Sanskrit is called a samskar. Samskar means an impression that is made on something. It goes through this lens and leaves an impression on there. But these impressions are very easy to delete. At the press of a delete button is got from your memories. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? In our life, through what we read, hear, what happens to us, so a lot of samskars happening on this memory here. And they are not easy to delete. So I'm not even, that's why I said, I'm not even asking you to delete them. You need to be so elevated spiritually to be able to just go, leave it all behind. We are not. We are people living in the real world. नहीं जाएगा आसानी से. So when we say forgive, we are saying don't allow that person now to control your peace. Let go. But we are also simultaneously saying that there is going to be that side. And every single time you see that person, imagine an abuser coming in front of those persons who's abused. That memory would trigger everything back again. Right? Everything back again. And that's precisely why during the course of my talk I had said, forgiveness, saying a sorry, it doesn't happen. We have to make it happen by shifting our attention elsewhere. I'll stay away from my triggers, which trigger that memory. But if that memory does come to me, and I feel angry, I feel hurt, I feel everything coming to me, I'll be compassionate to my own self and say it's okay. It's okay. Be compassionate to yourselves. Compassion is not just meant for others. So be self-compassionate. If you feel anger, you feel anger. If you feel hurt, you feel hurt. If you go through what you go through, you go through what you go through. Don't stay there because it's ruining your life. A man during his travels once came up to a mountain where he found a lady meditating under a tree. Quite intrigued by her presence in a solitary place like this, he asked her, "What are you doing here alone in such a secluded place?" The lady replied that she had a lot of work to do on that mountain. A little amused, the man asked, "A lot of work? I cannot see anything around you here. What do you have to do up here on this mountain?" The lady replied, "Well, I have to train 2 hawks and 2 eagles, teach 2 rabbits, discipline 1 snake, motivate a donkey, and tame a lion. And if I might ask you, where are they? I don't see any of them up here," questioned the man. "Actually, sir, you'll never be able to see them because they all live inside here within me," said the lady. "The hawks stare at everything that comes to me. People, good or bad. Situations, good or bad. Things, good or bad. And I have to work hard to train them to focus on the good side. The hawks represent the vision behind my eyes. And the 2 eagles, with their claws, can hurt and destroy. I have to train them not to hurt. Those eagles are my hands that need to do something constructive for the world and not create or engage in anything hurtful or destructive. Rabbits are very swift and they want to go wherever they want to go. I have to teach them to not just run around, but run in the right direction. After all, what use is the speed if there is no direction? The rabbits represent my feet and I always want them to go in the right direction in life. The donkey is often lethargic and at times acts very stubborn. I need to motivate it to continue on with its work. My mind is exactly like the donkey. It takes up something but then loses the enthusiasm to continue, and also can be very obstinate at times. A lot of hard work goes into dealing with this donkey, sir, to plead with it to keep going on and on. The most difficult to tame, however, is the snake. Although it is locked in a strong cage with 32 bars, it's always ready to sting, bite, and poison anyone nearby. I have to discipline it, and that is my tongue. I have one lion too. Oh, how proud, how vain. He thinks he's the king. I have to tame him and show him his real position, and that's my ego. So now you see, my dear sir, I have lots of work to do up here on the mountain. Ladies and gentlemen, all of us have lots of work to do as well. Internal work that can transform our external life. So let's stop gossiping. Let's stop criticizing. Let's stop evaluating and judging others. Let's start looking at and working on our own lives. Isn't it said, yesterday I was trying to be clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I'm trying to be wise, so I know that I need to change myself.
Astrology, Jyotish Shastra, palmistry, tarot cards, tarot cards. Everyone's wanting to know the secret that life holds for future. How many of you would like to take a journey into the future? Thank you. How many of you would be interested to know how long you would live? There are some courageous souls. How many of you would like to know who your life partner would be? अभी शर्मा गए, कोई हाथ नहीं उठा रहा. अरे हैं कुछ लोग हैं. Oh my God. Astrology is such a big thing. I was coming from some country and it was a free flight, 75 of us. And one man was totally drunk. I was sitting there. He comes up to me and says, Pandit ji, Pandit ji, हाथ देखते हैं? I said, जरूर देखते, लाओ. He stuck his palm out. I said, liver cirrhosis होने वाला है. He said, बराबर बोला, डॉक्टर ने भी यही बोला था. I said, it doesn't require astrology to see the way you're drunk that you'll get liver cirrhosis, you know. One guy came up to an astrologer and said, बहुत प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है सर, बहुत प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है. कुछ तो बोलो, क्या है बोलो प्रॉब्लम, आप कुछ तो प्रॉब्लम. Looked at his कुंडली, said, शनि का 7.5 है तेरे को. शनि का 7.5. बोलो तो क्या करेगा साहब, बोलो. बोला तुम 200 रुपया दो, हम पूजा कर देगा, तुम्हारा शनि वनी सब जला जाएगा. तो दिस गाय सेड 200 रुपया नहीं है साहब. सो ही सेड 100 रुपया दे दो. ही सेड 100 भी नहीं है. फिर मेरे भाई 50 दे दे. 50 10 दे, 10 में पूजा करता हूँ. बोला 10 भी नहीं है. बोला 1 दे दे यार, 1 रुपया में पूजा कर देगा तेरा शरीर. ही सेड 1 रुपया भी नहीं है. तू बोला तू जा, तू जा, तू जा, 1 रुपया भी नहीं है. शनि क्या बिगाड़ेगा तेरा, तू जा. What will Shani do to you, you know? You get lost. If you don't have anything, what will Shani anyways do to you? I'm sure all of us are looking for answers of what would happen with us, isn't it? One who's born will be dead. One who's dead will be born.
we have no control. I didn't have any control over how I was born and where I was born. I didn't have any control over what my looks were, what family I was born in, what country I was born in, what socio-economic class I was born in. I had no control over it. And I must say that we truly have no control over when life ends and how we die. Just cardinal facts of life. But there's something that we have control over which can make life beautiful. Therefore, I generally say life is a journey between two alphabets, B and D, where B stands for birth and D stands for death. What is in control is between the alphabets B and D is an alphabet called C. Between B and D is a C, and that C is choice. We can all learn to choose. As we live our lives, we can all learn to choose not to prove, but to improve. We can all learn to choose not to react, but to respond. We can all learn to choose how not to get affected by what's happening in our lives all around us. And it does. Our life is a matter of choices. Live well. It won't easily go wrong. You can't change your situations. You can change your response, ladies and gentlemen. There was this teacher in London. She's in London. She came to the class and she asked all the kids a question. I want to give you all an assignment. I want all of you to write on your notebooks answers to this question. What do you want to be when you grow up? And the obvious answers: engineers, doctors, actors, and nowadays social media influencers, YouTubers, like Insta stars. Nowadays the things have changed. Engineer kochi. Chi, kachara. Nowadays, youngsters say engineer, YouTuber. And nowadays, narratives have changed. People say monk. Can you believe that? Change of narrative. Because this is like monk swag. I'm like a monk with a swag. So nowadays, youngsters say, inke jaisa banna hai. Change of narrative. So everybody wrote their answers. One boy was sitting in the class. He hadn't written it. It was taking a little longer. But the teacher came to the boy and said, "You've not written your answer yet?" So just finishing. So he just said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" The boy said, "I want to be happy." The teacher looked at him, gobsmacked. Like gobsmacked. She said, "Look, son, I don't think you understood the assignment." The boy turned to the teacher and said, "Look, ma'am, I don't think you understood life. Because if you would have understood life, you would know well that what you want to be when you grow up is happy." And the legendary boy who gave this legendary answer was none but John Lennon from the Beatles. Right? He was the one who gave this answer. When you turn 22, what do you want to be? When you turn 42, what do you want to be? When you want to turn 62, what do you want to be? When you turn a billionaire, what do you want to be? When you reach to the peak of your career, what do you want to be? A very simple answer. We all want to be happy.
A lady named Maria lived with her mother in a small apartment. She was not too young nor too old, not too short nor too tall either, not particularly beautiful nor was she ugly. Maria was just an average woman. She worked as a secretary at a large company and her life was pretty boring and mundane. No one at work ever paid any attention to her, and those who did considered her to be as boring as her life was. One morning, on her way to work, Maria saw a new hat shop that had opened just down the street. Out of curiosity, she walked in. In the shop was a lady with her daughter who had come to pick a hat for her girl, and a couple of other customers who were trying different hats. Maria also tried a few hats until she found one she truly liked. She put it on and it looked really nice. The first one to notice was the little girl who exclaimed, "Mummy, look how pretty that woman looks with the hat on." The mother said, "Ma'am, I must say, this hat looks awesome on you." Another man in the shop also came up to Maria and said, "Ma'am, you look lovely with that hat on." Maria went to the mirror. She looked at herself, and for the first time in years, she liked her own look. Smiling, she went to the counter and bought the hat. As she walked outside, a new world revealed itself to her like never before. She'd never before noticed the colors of the flowers around her or smelt the scent of the fresh air. Even the sounds of the cars and people on the road sounded like a harmonious melody. She walked as if she was drifting on a cloud with a song being played in her heart. When she passed by the same coffee shop she walked by every morning, a young, handsome man called out to her, "Hey, you're looking gorgeous. Can I buy a cup of coffee for you?" She blushed, kept walking, floating on the cloud of her newfound joy. When she got to the office building, the doorman opened the door and wished her good morning. Never before had he even noticed her. The people in the elevator asked her the floor she needed and pressed the button for Maria. Her colleagues at the office, as if seeing her for the very first time, praised her on how lovely she looked that day. The manager asked her out to lunch to talk about how she felt at work. When this extraordinary work day was over, she decided to take a cab back home instead of the bus. As soon as she put her hand up, 2 taxis stopped. She took the first one and sat in the back seat thinking about the magical day she had had and how her life felt so different and changed thanks to the new hat. When she got home, her mom opened the door. The sight of Maria took her breath away. "Maria," she said, surprised, "you're looking fabulous today. Your eyes are all lit up like when you were a little girl." "Yes, Mom," said Maria. "It's all thanks to my new hat. I had the most marvelous day in years." "New hat?" asked the confused mother. "Which hat are you talking about?" Maria panicked. She touched her head only to realize that the hat that had changed her life was not there. She tried remembering where she may have left it. In the cab? No. At lunch? I don't think so. At the office? Not at all. She thought of the store where she had bought it, how she had noticed it for the first time, how she had put it on her head, how she had gone to pay for it at the cashier's. Oh my goodness! She remembered how she had put it on the counter to get her purse out to pay, and how she had forgotten it right there on the counter. And then she had walked out right there to the street, hatless, yet glowing. Ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't the external hat that made Maria's day great. It was the quality of her internal dialogue that transformed how she felt. Our internal dialogue can enslave us into a horrible, routine life, or can liberate us, making our life full of gusto, energy, passion, and joy. Change your hat inside today and look at the magic of how the outside hat simply adds on to your already existing gorgeous inner beauty. Like sometimes you find child prodigies You know, they're like masters in singing or dancing or writing or whatever they do. Like you see 2-year-old kids, when their hands go on a piano, spellbound. Now, don't tell me that he could learn that and master it at that age. Don't tell me. A 2-year-old can't master the alphabet. Don't tell me that he mastered it by learning it. In fact, nobody taught it to him. He got it. He got it. Now, when you say he got it, don't call it genetic. How do genes give you a music skill? You know? How? So I know kids, young little kids who are like prodigies in what they do. At 1.5, at 2. It's absolutely phenomenal. And then, now where is faith and belief here? It's rational logic that this guy has it. It's not come from learning. It's not come from reading. Nobody imparted to him. It must come from somewhere. How can there be an effect without a cause? Absolutely. And I can't see an immediate cause right now. So there has to be a remote cause before this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whether I call it karma, whether I call it whatever, but I can't accept an effect without a cause. It's against my rational thinking. You know? So now, if this gentleman, this little boy or little girl, he or she, has this incredible talent. We call it, the common parlance is he or she is God-gifted.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
God-gifted, man. Look at this guy.
Yeah.
Not learned, look at how they're doing it. So that to me is, call it luck, call it destiny, call it karma, call it whatever. I didn't grab it. I got it. Matthew McConaughey, when he got the Oscar, he said something phenomenal. I loved it. In fact, it's written in the book as well. He first, of course, thanked God, thanked his wife, thanked his father, thanked his mom. And he said, I want to thank God. So I want to thank God because opportunities are not given by the human hand. I didn't seek a lot and it came to me. How do I explain it? There's a million other people who are seeking, they don't get it.
That's right.
And I don't seek and I get it. What am I going to explain it by? You know? You know what I mean? Now, what that little one does with that talent, or what this gentleman does or this lady does with the opportunity that has come, is my free will.
Correct.
Or my choice. Whether to drive right or to drive left or to not drive.
Right.
Correct? But the car, for a lot of people, was given.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Now, that free will part is where I often like to quote. I say, I don't know who said it, but it's a beautiful quote. It says, when hard work beats talent, when talent doesn't work hard.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
So now, the talent came to you when you were 2. But if you don't do nothing with it,
it has no meaning.
It has no meaning. So you didn't drive the car.
Yeah.
You grossly abused the fantastic gift, the car that you were given.
Absolutely.
Correct? And then the others may not get a car like that, but they have their own car.
Yes.
Which they now need to identify. That's called self-discovery.
Yes.
To be able to identify what's the car you've been given. What's it that you've been gifted with? And everybody has been gifted with something. There are 5 levels of people. On level 1, the lowest level, is a person who only sees bad in others. For heaven's sake, that guy just cannot see any good. Anyone here like that? I don't think so. We're not so bad that we just can't see any good. Some people just can't see any. You know, it's like when you like someone, even if the guy does the biggest crime, you say, no, Maro dikro che, aja. You like him. But when you don't like someone, even if he does the best thing, you don't like him. And if you have that experience, if you just don't like someone, even if he has all the good qualities, you just can't like him. There are some people on that lowest level. They only focus on the bad. They can't see the good. A level higher are those who see the good and the bad, but conveniently ignore the good and focus on the bad.
How often it happens when we live with people, there's so many good things in them, but conveniently we neglect the good things and only focus on the bad. My husband digs the nose. Okay. He digs his nose, but he also does many other good things. How come you forgot all of those and only digging? How come you only saw that? How come you only saw that? You know? We conveniently neglect the good and focus on the bad. The third category of people are those who see good and bad equally, and they're neutral. They're not concerned, good, bad, they're in their own world. The fourth category are those who see the good and bad. They choose to ignore the bad or deal with the bad and focus on the good. If you want to like a person, you have to be on level 4. If you want to like a person, if you're on level 2, where you're ignoring the good and focusing on the bad, how will you like that person? And how will that relationship be deep? When you're on level 4, where you choose to ignore the bad, or if the need be, deal with the bad and focus on the good. And the fifth level is those who only see good. That's God and spiritually enlightened individuals who will only see good in others. Anybody here who's on level 1 only seeing bad? Can raise your hand? Nobody? Okay, thank you. Anybody is here on level 5 only seeing good? If you raise your hand, I don't believe you. Oh, sorry, madam, I do believe you. I'm so I didn't see you raise your hand. I was just joking. Sorry, I truly believe you, madam. I didn't see you raise your hand, please. I just happened to say you by thinking nobody is. Thank you, madam. We really appreciate. Can we give a loud round of applause for her? My God, amazing. Okay, now in your close relationships, how many of you find yourself many times stuck at level 2? Level 2, where you kind of look at the bad and forget the good that they have. Thank you. In our relationships, we need to come to level 4.
You know, when we're talking about science and spirituality, I feel that I never felt there is a divide or a difference.
Right.
I feel the purpose is one. When we look at both having the same purpose, which is to unveil the truth.
Correct.
Science is trying to unveil the truth.
Right.
And spirituality is wanting to unveil the truth.
Correct.
So how are we different in our purpose, correct? The methodologies may be different. Like in science, I may use equipment, I may use instruments, I may use telescopes, I may use measurements, I may use so many different things to be able to figure out what that truth is. Correct? And I will.
Yes.
I will. Phenomenally will. Correct? So from science and from all what I see, I have facts. Not complete facts yet. Which is why it's always evolving. We call it a relative science. It's not an absolute science. Mendelev's periodic table, right?
Yes.
The values were changing, right? We found out the truth later. We assigned a certain value. We said, sorry, sir, this is not what it is. This is the actual value. So it's changing. So could I say that this is it? May not be. If I get an instrument which is better than what I have today, I'll probably explore another layer of that same facet, right? Now, that's where I get the facts. Great, I need those facts. When we talk about spirituality, it is giving the purpose of those facts. So we should be working in tandem. Spirituality and science were meant to work in tandem. One looking at unveiling the truth by giving us factual data. And one saying, giving the philosophical side, saying, what is the purpose of this data?
Correct.
What is the purpose of this existence? And both are two important dimensions to the same truth.
Absolutely.
You know, so I feel
that's an artificial divide.
It's an artificial divide, and it's rigidity on both parts, both sides, that we can't come together to sit and say, hey, look, I'll give you an example. Should a doctor repair a car? That's not a skill set.
Yeah.
Should a car mechanic try and do an open heart surgery? No. So this is my area of expertise,
Let me do that much and not delve into something further. Let somebody else with this other area of expertise come together and let's pool it all together to unveil the truth together, adding our own dimension to it.
Do you get the confidence then that the world tomorrow will be a better place than it is today?
Let me tell you an interesting story. There was a ship sailing on the ocean, and one of the sailors on the ship came back to the captain and said, "Captain, it's dark in the night, can't see anything. But Captain, we are in for a head-on collision. There's a ship right in front of us." The captain said, "Signal to them, you change course 20 degrees. Back came a reply, "We're not going to change course 20 degrees, you change course 20 degrees. The captain said to the sailor, "Send a message. We are a battleship. Send a message, I am the captain of the ship." Back came a reply. "Tell the captain, I am an ordinary seaman." The captain was infuriated. I am the captain telling him, an ordinary seaman's telling me, change course 20 degrees. The captain said, "Send a message, signal them. We are a battleship." Back came the reply. "Tell the captain, we are the lighthouse." Right. Now, you know something? A lighthouse doesn't move. A lighthouse stands in one place and gives direction to every ship. A lighthouse is not meant to align with the ship's sails. A ship is meant to align its sails with the lighthouse. And which is precisely why there are lighthouse universal principles that can make the world a better place. The more we are in alignment with those principles, the world will definitely be a better place. How many of you would agree that if we were kinder to each other and kinder to everybody, the world would be a better place? That's the lighthouse principle. We are called a humankind. And we should be a human and we should be kind, both. That's why we are called a humankind. How many of you would agree that if we were to be empathetic, sensitive to the needs of every person in the world would be a better place? Thank you. How many of you would agree that if we were to harmonize on what is common amongst all of us and not focus on the differences all the time, the world would be a better place? Thank you. How many of you would agree that if we were to come together as one force and not divide ourselves into multiple forces, the world would be a better place? Thank you. The more we align ourselves with the lighthouse principles, the world's going to be a better place.
I really want you to help us with one life advice that we all should follow in 2023.
Along with the celebration, I think we should also have some deliberation.
Okay.
And the deliberation should be on what went right in the last year. Whatever went right, can we bring it to this year and also build upon it? Deliberation on what went wrong in the last year. Can we even correct it a little bit and improvise it, rectify it a little bit? Because let's not just make parties, events, social functions as celebrations. Let's make life as a celebration.
Yeah.
And if we want to make life a celebration in 2023, I think we should look at what went right, bring it back into 2023, what went wrong, rectify a little bit of that in 2023. And we should always remember that in the book of our life, many chapters of our book are written already.
Yeah.
And the last chapter of whatever your age is today, 31st of December this year, that chapter will be closed as well.
Right.
You can't do anything about it. But beginning 1st of January, the new chapter that year is completely blank. Don't feel too much remorse. Don't feel too much guilt. Don't live in that trap that I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. I'm a failure. Let's begin afresh with zeal, with enthusiasm, with tremendous hope and faith and confidence that I can do it. I will do it. I will take support and help whenever needed, but I'll get where I want to be.
Not only the human body is God's magic, the human mind and intelligence, what a magic, ladies and gentlemen. And you know, greater magic than that is a gift that every one of you have been given, which you just can't see now. Willpower. Choice. The most powerful asset
the most powerful gift which is the most underutilized. Our willpower, our choice. God, our life will be different if we used it. But as we get spiritual, we can start freeing our free will. I want to just offer to you 3 essential principles of gratitude. Being mindful and grateful. The first one being recognizing all the wonderful things that have been done to us. Believe me, we are in such a rush most of the time. We're not even thoughtful and mindful to recognize the incredible gifts that have been showered upon us. How many of you had loving parents? Most all of us. How many of us feel that we've been receiving so much affection from our parents? Yes. How many of you have loving spouses? You might want to or may not want to raise your hands. That is completely up to you. It's your choice, ladies and gentlemen, whether you want to raise your hands for this. How many of you had wonderful teachers? Good. How many of you had some amazing friends? Great. How many of you have come in contact with some wonderful spiritual personalities? Great. And how many of us feel that our life is a collective sum total of the so many wonderful things that have been done to us by so many in our lives? Show of hands, please. All of us, isn't it? So many of us have been recipients and received so much from our families, from our friends, from our teachers, from saints. I'll tell you something, to be very honest, what the world needs today is transformed individuals. We have a lot of affluence, we have a lot of influence, we have a lot of information. We are in an age which is laden with information. You know, what we truly need is transformed individuals who can utilize what we have for constructive causes in the world, who can truly bring light to the world, who can truly bring hope to the world. There's enough information. What we would need is transformation. And what better a way but to have a spiritual culture to bring that transformation in individuals. And in fact, I don't want to say it, but I must, that spirituality happens to be one of those major ways to bring transformation in individuals and people. I see so many people following different parts of spirituality and change and transform to not just be a part of competition, but be a part of contribution. Along with competition, they're also looking at contribution. Youth is the hope for the world. Youngsters, young men and ladies are the ones who can change the shape of planet Earth, who can change the way the world functions, bringing in incredible hope and light to the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the modern era, we have mastered the art of being successful. I'm not sure if we have mastered the art of feeling successful. And there's a big difference between being successful and feeling successful. Being successful is quantum, numbers. And feeling successful is quality. As you get all the numbers that you dream for, as you get all the numbers that you work hard for, as you get all the numbers that you're passionate about, are you also looking at quality with the quantity? So yes, climbing up is about the quantity, but carrying the key along is about the quality of your lives. And I think it's such a crucial aspect. Even if you're looking at enhancing your performance, only if you lead a quality life can you enhance effectively. Otherwise, a stressed out guy is more in his stress and his, God, optimum performance, what the hell? When the mind is not in place, what are we talking about optimum performance? I can cut corners, you know. Cut corners. Being successful is about what others think of you. Feeling successful is what you think about your own life. Everybody thinks these are FT guys, you know. Everybody thinks these guys are driving big sedans. Everybody thinks, oh gosh, these guys are making money, man. Everybody thinks you are doing exceedingly well. What are you thinking about yourself? What are you thinking about your life? Who cares a heck what others think about our lives? What do we think about our lives is the question that we all need to ask ourselves. So I'm not against being successful for sure. I'm saying while we are trying to be successful, we need to live our life in a way that we can also feel successful. So today, this evening, afternoon rather, I would give to you 2 keys. One, how to feel successful in your work. And second, how to be successful in your work. So I'm going to give you the key when you walk up, but I'm also going to talk to you about how to reach 290 from 29. Both ways. Both are important. Go up and carry the key along. But first I'll talk about the key because that's my home ground. You know, that's my home ground. You can't catch me on the wrong foot there, hopefully. Okay, how many of you were good at maths? Okay, great. How many of you are terrible at maths? How many of you didn't care any less? बोला पास हो जा बस हो गया क्या good or bad क्या है अच्छा बुरा क्या है pass हो जा exam I just get it done. Sometimes they say maths stands for mentally affected teachers harassing students. At the full form of maths, you know, this is this guys harassing us with this mathematics. I'm an electrical engineer, so mathematics came really easy to me. It was a part of my life. You know, it's like in every cell of your body there's maths for engineers. One teacher came to a classroom once and said to the kids, if a ship is sinking, a frog is croaking, and potatoes are 20 rupees a kilo, guess what my age is? The student said, ma'am, can you come back with the question, please? The teacher said, well, a ship is sinking, a frog is croaking, and potatoes are 20 rupees for a kilo, guess what my age is? One student raised his hand and said, 32, madam, 32. She said, you're spot on, man. But how did you get that right? The guy said, look, my sister is 16 years old and she's half mad. You wouldn't have a choice. But who would ask such an unconnected question? Now, since I'm an engineer by profession and since you guys are in the financial market dealing with numbers, I'm going to talk about life in numbers. I think life is an equation. And I'm going to talk about a professional life. You guys sitting right here, your professional life is 2 components to it. 2 parts of the equation of your professional life. Number 1, the have to do. You have to do your work. Have to. What a horrible word that is. I have to go to work. I have to do it. I have to meet with this deadline. How many of you have to meet up with deadlines? What a word, isn't it? Deadline. By the time you cross the line, you know what happens. Your moral is dead. Have to work. Any of you go through work stress?
I'll tell you what, guys. Under performance pressure, even roosters have to lay eggs, bloody eggs. And what do I mean by laying eggs under performance pressure? Doing something that I don't love. Doing something that I'm not cut for. Doing something that I'm absolutely not passionate about. I traveled the world speaking to big corporate houses. And it's not an exaggerated number. Over 80% of the professionals who are working out there are getting a thick, fat paycheck because they're so absolutely phenomenally great at what they do, but they're not fulfilled with what they do. They're not satisfied with what they do. I was sharing with Abha an equation that if you're working for about 8 hours a day, average, and if you have a 5 days work week, you spend 40 hours a week at your workplace. If you have 2 weeks a holiday in a year, which is 50 weeks you're working for, you spend about 2,000 hours at your workplace. And if you're working for an average of about 45 years, You spend a bloody 90,000 hours at your workplace, and that's a daunting number. 90,000 hours account to about 10 years of your life, and I have a simple question. Am I going to be spending 90,000 hours in misery, doing something that I'm paid for but I'm not fulfilled with? I took that leap. I jumped out of the corporate world. I left Hewlett-Packard to chase something that I love to do, but I definitely do not advocate that. My principle that I talk to people about is get paid for what you're great at, and also side by side add to your life what you love, your passion, even if it is by the side. Because passion doesn't pay your bills immediately. Passion doesn't pay your mortgages and financial liabilities immediately. So it's easy to say that I need to be satisfied with what I do, but as we live in the real world, so love what you do and do what you love.
For some incredible Sadhguru motivation, click the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Can you see me right now, all of you? Can you see me? Just point out where I am. Use your hands and point out. Can you see me? Oh, you got it wrong. You know I'm a mystic.